But as my family and people started to disappear, my mother had somebody build a hiding place in a closet. The ceiling was the floor of the closet, and when you went into the hole, so to speak, it was the ceiling of the apartment down below. And then there was a trap door overhead. And
was it a small space for one person or?
Barely two.
Barely two.
Yeah, so my mother went to the underground and they found a middle-aged couple. It's just a very, very small farm. The people lived off what they could raise. They had a couple of cows, a couple of chickens, a couple of pigs, that was it. You know, and it was always amazing to me that, you know, those meager halves that they would share that with two total strangers. As I got older, of course, I appreciated even more the act in and of itself, because if we get caught, they and their entire family would be sent to a concentration camp.
Right. So you stayed in their home
For 2 years.
in their, like in a basement, or?
No, we had one small bedroom.
And you would stay
and we
there?
slept in the closet. And then the raids became the same as in the city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Nazis started to find out that
People
some of the farms being, you know, hiding people. And so Klaas was the farmer's name, Klaas of Rufina Post. He one day cut a couple of planks out of the floor. So now when we hear the trucks coming up the dirt road, you know, I'd open that up, my mom and I would jump in there like a couple of sardines. And either one, Klaas or Rufina, put the boards back, throw a little rug. You couldn't tell anything. Right. I mean, I could never come out during daylight hours, ever. Ever. Yeah, because, you know, neighboring farms say, hey, where'd they come from, you know? And so I could only go out at dusk when, you know, it got dark. But then it got even worse. It got even too dangerous. And but 150 feet from the farm was a small little forest. Nobody ever went in there. And one day at dusk, Klaas got a wheelbarrow and a couple of shovels and told me to come with him into the forest. And we went to the middle and in one of the rises started to dig, you know, and he says, take all that dirt away, but don't dump it, you know, don't let it be seen with any activity. One hand at a time, throw the dirt out. And after a couple of days, we made like a hole. He cut down some, out of the area, some small trees, made a roof over it, and made like an entrance out of twigs and all of that stuff. And, you know, now when we heard the trucks, Mom and I'd run in the back and crawl into this thing. Again, like a couple of sardines. It was just a 3 by 3 by 6 feet. And, but you could stand in front of it and you could never tell. So it got so dangerous that, again, how, I don't know, but my mother got hold of the underground again.
And said we need to...
And we got to get out of here. And we ended up in the city of The Hague, where there were 2 women that would give us the use of a bedroom, would hide us. But it was all different there, you know, they wouldn't share their food, they made my mother do the dirty work. But, you know, we had to be thankful.
That you had a place.
Yeah. My mother found out those ladies got scared and they were going to turn us in. Because if they got caught hiding us, you know. So, again, through the underground, they found a room back in Amsterdam. But how do we get back there? That's 45 miles. And there was, at that time, only one highway connecting the 2 cities. But it was only to be used by German military. I woke up one night and my mother's sitting at a table with a candle with a bunch of sheets. And she's sewing. After several hours, she made a nurse's uniform. No idea what that was all about. By this time I'm 9.5 years old. And sometime at 2, 3 in the morning, it was in the winter, she bundled me up and bundled herself up and wrapped this contraption, that she made. I said, where are we going? Quiet. We tippy-toed out of the place. We didn't have any belongings to speak of. Right. And all of a sudden I realized, I said, we're not going to this highway, are we? Quiet, don't talk. And we're going through the snow, dodging shadows in the middle of the night, you know, make sure, I mean, who's out wartime, let alone who we were, on a snowy night, you know. And as daylight came up, I could see in the distance, I said, Mom, we're going to the highway? Those are the guys that want to kill us. Quiet. And as we get closer, flatbed trucks with tanks on them, soldiers marching, artillery, and the whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
I was petrified. I mean, I knew what was going on. And we get to the highway because my mother decides to hitchhike. And a flatbed truck stops, and an SS officer gets out and starts to read my mother the riot act. What are you doing here with a child along the highway? This is for the fatherland. No civilians allowed, blah, blah, blah. Of course, my mother being from Vienna, of course, she understood German, it's the language. And for whatever reason, I don't know, the guy gave her a chance to explain. And in The Hague, most people don't know that Germany was the first country in the world to develop a ballistic missile for war purposes. It was called a V2 rocket, and they built several launching pads around the city of The Hague, firing over to England, as well as the American bases from which the bombers came that bombed German cities. And the British used to come over trying to wipe out those launching pads. So my mother's story was, you know about the British, coming, yeah. So, well, just a couple of days ago, one of the British bombs went astray and hit the apartment house the kid here, pointing at me, was living, and it killed both of his parents. And as you can see, I'm a nurse for the International Red Cross, and I'm taking him to an orphanage. Question only says, come with me. He guides my mother, helps her into the cab next to the driver of this flatbed truck, and he comes, and I'm shaking in my boots. He picks me up, puts me in the snow in the back of the truck. He goes back to the cab. My mother sits between the two Nazi officers, and thank you very much, they took us to Amsterdam. And on the 14th of May of 45, that the Canadians liberated Holland, and the war was over, but nobody came back. Mom and I were the only survivors. And then 4 years later, we came to the United States.